Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Untuk maklumat awal, majlis kita akan bermula sebentar lagi. Mohon kerjasama para hadirin untuk memastikan mikrofon Zoom telah dimatikan. Kerjasama para hadirin amatlah dihargai. Terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Yang berbahagia, Dato SR Zulkefli bin Mohamad Zain, Principal Partner Design Konsultan merangkap Profesor Adjung Jabatan Teknologi Kejuruteraan Awam. Yang berusaha Profesor Madya Teknologi Dr. Suhaila binti Muhammad Sunar, Ketua Jabatan Teknologi Kejuruteraan Awam, Fakulti Teknologi Kejuruteraan, Universiti Tun Hussein On Malaysia, pegawai-pegawai universiti, staf-staf akademik, seterusnya, para hadirin yang dihormati sekalian. Selamat datang diucapkan ke slot 2 program Adjunct Profesor Lecture Series 2021 secara atas talian. Seterusnya, bagi memberkati majlis hari ini, majlis mempersilakan Saudara Muhammad Waliuddin untuk memimpin bacaan doa. Dipersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Al-Fatihah. Ya kenal. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Tak keluar lah. Sorry. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma ighfir lana dhunubana wa liwalidayna warhamhuma kama rabbayana shaghira. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, sesungguhnya kami berhimpun pada hari ini bagi melahirkan rasa kesyukuran di atas kurnia-Mu yang tidak ternilai. Jadikanlah kami hamba-hamba-Mu yang sentiasa bersyukur di atas nikmat yang melimpah ruah. Ya Allah, Ya Alim, sesungguhnya Engkau Maha mengetahui bahawa kami di sini ingin menimba ilmu-Mu yang sangat luas bagi mengembangkan potensi kami sebagai hamba-Mu yang Engkau redai. Justeru berkatilah dan rahmatilah perhimpunan kami ini, kurniakanlah kepada kami apa kiranya ilmu-Mu, sinarilah hati-hati kami dengan cahaya dan hidayah-Mu. Semoga dengannya kami mudah menerima dan menghayati serta mengamalkannya. Ya Zal Jalali wal Ikram, kurniakanlah apa kiranya kepada kami kesihatan anggota, kecergasan minda, ketenangan jiwa, kekuatan semangat. Semoga dengannya kami mampu mendepani cabaran, berdaya saing dan mampu mengangkat martabat diri, keluarga, masyarakat dan negara. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar wa qina azabannar wa qina azabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Ucapkan jutaan terima kasih di atas bacaan doa sebentar tadi. Hadirin hadirat yang dihormati sekalian, terima kasih diucapkan kepada semua yang hadir pada hari ini. Walaupun kita masih dalam tempoh Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan, program ini dapat diteruskan menggunakan teknologi komunikasi terkini menggunakan platform secara atas talian, Zoom dan FB Live. Untuk makluman hadirin, slot ini adalah slot yang kedua dari 4 siri perkongsian ilmu dari Yang Berbahagia SR Dato Zulkefli bin Mohamad Zain. Tajuk atau topik yang akan diutarakan pada hari ini ialah The Future and Challenge of Construction Engineering in Malaysia. Hadirin hadirat yang dihormati sekalian, program lecture series pada hari ini akan menggunakan format forum. Untuk makluman, Persidangan ini menampilkan 2 orang panelis dan seorang moderator yang terdiri daripada Yang Berbahagia, SR Dato Zulkefli sebagai panelis pertama, Profesor Madya Dr. Chan Chiming sebagai panelis kedua dan Teknologis Mohamad Luthfi selaku moderator yang akan memberikan perkongsian berkaitan dengan hala tuju dan cabaran bidang kejuruteraan pembinaan di Malaysia. Sekiranya para hadirin mempunyai sebarang soalan, bolehlah diajukan di ruang chat box. Tanpa melengahkan masa lagi, majlis diteruskan dengan sesi forum yang akan dikendalikan oleh Teknologis Mohamad Luthfi bin Ahmad Jeni yang merupakan Fellow Industri di Jabatan Teknologi Kejuruteraan Awam JTKA, Fakulti Teknologi Kejuruteraan UTHM. Dengan ini, majlis menjemput Teknologis Mohamad Luthfi bin Ahmad Jeni untuk menyampaikan perkongsian berkaitan the future of challenge of construction engineering in Malaysia. Dipersilakan.
Okey. Terima kasih kepada pengacara majlis. Okey, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Yang berusaha Profesor Madya, Teknologis Dr. Suhaila binti Muhammad Sunar, Malaysia. Okay. Para panel forum, pegawai-pegawai kanan universiti, pegawai-pegawai universiti, seterusnya para hadirin yang dihormati, yang dapat memberikan komitmen pada pagi ini. Okey, selamat datang saya ucapkan ke program yang saya rasa julung-julung kalinya diadakanlah di FTK, okay, iaitu program Adjunct Profesor Lecture Series. Okay. So, untuk makluman, slot untuk pagi ini adalah slot yang kedua. Okay. So kita ada 4 slot. Okay. So pada petang ni pun sebenarnya ada 1 slot dan kemudian pada 27 hari bulan pun ada lagi 1 slot. Okay. Okay, so untuk makluman semua, tajuk ataupun topik yang akan diutarakan pada hari ini ialah the future and challenge of construction engineering in Malaysia. Okay, so suka untuk saya perkenalkan kita punya panel lah. Okay, untuk seperti mana yang diberitahu ataupun diwar-warkan oleh cik pengacara majlis tadi. So slot ni merupakan kita buat dalam bentuk forum. Okay, so yang terdiri daripada 2 orang panel. So panelis kita yang pertama adalah yang berusaha Datuk SR Muhammad Zulkefli bin Mohamad Zain. Apa khabar Datuk? Sihat Datuk?
Alhamdulillah, baik. Terima kasih.
Ya, selamat hari Datuk.
Selamat hari.
Masih dalam bulan Syawal lagi.
InsyaAllah.
Okey. Okey, so dan panelis kita yang kedua adalah merupakan warga yang tidak asing lagi lah di UTHM, iaitu Profesor Madya Dr. Chan Chiming. Okey. So, apa khabar Prof? Sihat? Selamat raya. Okey, so sebelum tu suka untuk saya kenalkan sedikit lah latar belakang kita punya panel. So ahli panel kita yang pertama adalah Profesor Adjung. Okey, Datuk SR Zulkefli bin Mohamad Zain. Okey, beliau telah dilantik sebagai Profesor Adjung, okey, di Jabatan Teknologi Kejuruteraan Awam FTK. Okey, so beliau telah dilantik pada tahun 2018 lah. Okey, so sebenarnya Datuk Zul ni sebenarnya dia membantu FTK sejak daripada awal pembangunan lagi. Okey, so kalau saya tak silap waktu kita membangunkan program yang Datuk 2013 Datuk jadi IAP kita.
Ya,
Sebagai penasihat industri kita.
betul.
Okey, so banyak input yang Datuk bagi.
Amin.
Okey, so Datuk Zul ni adalah merupakan principal partner di design course consultant. Okey, so merupakan dan beliau telah dilantik menjadi Adjunct Profesor berdasarkan pengalaman beliau yang sangat lama lah. Okay. So, selama 36 tahun kalau saya tak silap. Dan beliau terlibat dalam bidang industri pembinaan, perniagaan, pendidikan. Beliau juga merupakan fellow Royal Institute of Surveyor Malaysia. Okay. Chartered Quantity Surveyor of UK dan juga berdaftar dengan
Okay, Assalamualaikum semua. It seems that our moderator today having some kind of internet problem. So I will start to introduce a bit while waiting for TS Luthfi. I will introduce a bit background of our speaker today. So you have heard just now, Dato S.R. Zulkefli is a principal partner of the design course and consultant. Okay, Encik Luthfi, are you there? Okay, I believe I can continue a bit. So as a principal partner, he has devoted his practice to the construction project development for the last decade. So he also a fellow of the Royal Institute of Surveyor Malaysia, FRISM, and a member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyor United Kingdom, MRICS. And he's also the member of the Royal Institute of Surveyor and registered with Board of Quantity Surveyor Malaysia as the consultant quantity surveyor. So his recent activities include the providing project management consultancy service, serving as a expert witness for the construction dispute, and also sharing his broad knowledge with the construction community as an adjunct professor in the Faculty of Engineering Technology, UTHM. And just for your information, Dato Zulkefli has worked on hundreds of building and infrastructural projects with a total value of more than 4.4 billion, if I can mention Dato. And he also received numerous awards for his expertise. Among them are the Excellence Awards from UNESCO Asia Pacific Heritage for the Culture Heritage Conservation for the Stadium Merdeka in 2010. And also the Anugerah Wajah Excellent Awards as a sole partnership consultant from the Board of Quantity Surveyor Malaysia. So I believe we have a very good panel for today forum because we have a panel with a very broad experience in industry and also has led many construction projects. And I believe using his perspective, we can extract or generate how industry will look at us as the academic perspective, as an academic community, and what will the industry expect from us. All right. And a bit on Prof Chan, I think she is no longer No, sorry. Let me correct it. She is not a new person for us. All right. She has joined with our community for quite a long time. She also currently leading the international office department. So we can expect a very good perspective on how she will look at our academic communities, especially in the construction element, toward the international and also the national development. All right. Without further ado, we can start Dato Zulkefli and Prof. Chan.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So Dato, currently we are having two main streams of education in constructions. The one part we have the engineering, and the other part we have engineering technology. So how you look these two parts, or these two not that distinctive academic background from the industrial perspective?
Okay, thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to everybody. Good morning, Professor Chan and Professor Adi and everybody in this forum. As you all aware that the oldest profession as far as engineering is concerned is actually a civil engineers. From that, it's branched out to other discipline of engineering. For the sake of information, as of 2017, by 2020, our country required 200,000 of registered engineers. But in 2017, we only have 70,000 registered engineers. Definitely, we still lack of engineer. Very unfortunate. COVID stepped in, and the development of the country has been stalled to a certain extent. And of course, however, the production of the engineer by the university never stopped. Engineering is a very important because it involves, as a really civil engineer, involve the kinds of services provided by them that ease off the life of everybody, be it in terms of the facilities for us to move around, the facilities that make our mankind important and make our life easy from day-to-day life. And it also evolved through the technologies that we are embraced now. What we actually, through my 36 years of experience in the industry, civil engineers play a very important role in the development of our country, especially when 20 years down the line, when we develop our infrastructure. We are building our road, we are building our bridges, we are building our highway, we are building a lot of infrastructure like water, providing water to the rural area, providing what they call road services to them, and providing sewage treatment system to the many parts of the town in the country. And many more actually being done by the civil engineers. Without them, we cannot enjoy the facilities that we are enjoying now. However, there are two distinctive different from traditional civil engineers and technologies civil engineers. Technology civil engineers, as I can remember, is only something that I know of about 8 years ago when I was the advisor to UTHM in formatting this course. My experience 36 years of later of 10 years, I have yet to come across that I'm dealing with the civil engineers technologies. That shows how young they are. However, there's a room for the civil engineers technologies to play in the industry by virtue of the broad knowledge that they have, again, the conventional knowledge of the civil engineers. It is all about the ability of the university to produce one that befitted the needs of the industry. That's one. Secondly, the ability of those who graduated from your university or other university who are having the same course like yours to demonstrate their ability to provide more than what civil engineers could do. It seems what I call is a very noble intention, but beside a specific role as a civil engineer, as I mentioned to you just now, there's a lot of role that we need and a broad knowledge of engineers, either to assist the civil engineers or to act on their own capacity to ensure that the implementation of those infrastructure, those construction activities were carried out way better than what we used to be. This could be an area whereby civil engineers technologies could play an important role. Moreover, that you already now have your own board accepting you as part of the professional in the industry. Based on my experience as a developer and a contractor, as well as the project manager, I believe that the cost of doing construction in the country is going high, and very little done to minimize the cost. Among other things is that poor site management, bad processes of procurement strategy, as well as a lot of wastages were what it calls registered at the site. This is where the areas of civil engineer technologies can play by providing a method which allow the most efficient way of doing construction. They must be able to, from the initial as far as the construction is concerned, if they work with the contractors, they must be able to procure the best material, that they must be able to procure the best plant and machineries and deploy it within the right numbers, the right size, the right quantity at the right times. And as well as to ensure that the wastages in resources, be it material, as well as the human resources, were deployed correctly at the right time with the right output and very minimum amounts of wastages being created at the site. If 3% or to 5% wastages that being created for every project, a project of 100 million, we might lose 3 to 5 million for one project. So you can imagine about 50 billion worth of project, if a 3 to 5% amount of wastages being created in the industry, we are talking about 300 to 500 million out of 600 million to 1 billion, total of 20 billion. What is a wastage items? It's a huge amount that require technologies to look into that. So in my opinion, there's a role to play by the technologies to ensure that the construction industry costs can be reduced, the construction industry activities can be made efficient by deploying technologies in doing and executing the job, in doing and managing the projects, in doing and understand what best to be deployed at the right times, and of course, deploying different kinds of methodology in terms of construction over and above what we used to do now. So the civil engineers is busy with the design. The civil engineer is busy with the what it calls maintaining the projects. It is very much need of another parties who has a broad spectrum of knowledge from procurement, contract, finance, construction, planning, and management, and resource activity control, or as a project controller. Knowledge that civil engineer technology do have could be able to assist everybody, the architect, the quantity surveyor, the M&E engineer, the civil engineer, in making through the one that I mentioned. I would like to stop at that level because I would like to give a chance to Professor to look into the other perspective. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dato. So, Prof. Chan, we always tell our students that, as Dato mentioned, the industry is looking more onto the managing the site and then dealing with procuring material, managing human resources, developing the method, and so on. So in our part, normally we tell our student that engineering technology is not the theoretical part, unlike the engineering, right? Are we in the correct direction on what we are doing right now?
All right. Am I being unmuted? Huh?
We can hear you clearly, Prof. Chan.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for the question, Dr. Andre. So once again, very good morning to all, especially the honorable guest, Dr. Zul, who is not a stranger, totally familiar to us. He's like a godfather to us all. In fact, if we were in campus, we have been hearing about the room that Ferrari coming in by Dr. Zul. So we surely miss that. Right. And yeah, coming back to this question about whether we are the difference really. I mean, this is like the orang kata apa Cikgu Omas punya soalan lah. We like to ask this question. Even students who are well in their second year could still be asking the same question, and we never get tired of talking about it. We never get tired of answering it because, as Dato also mentioned, the construction industry is a very dynamic arena where every other day you see things changing. And because of that, perhaps the roles and plural form of the engineers and engineering technologies are also evolving every day, if not every second. And this leads us to what Dato has highlighted. We do not confine ourselves to the very narrow scope of job definition of the engineers and engineering technologies. A lot of times they are actually overlapping of the two. The difference is that to what extent do you take your responsibility to? For example, we're talking about in general, we can just say that the engineers are focusing on the design, right? The client comes with the problem, the engineers will start looking at how to resolve the problem on paper. More or less, it's like this. Yes, go for site visits and so on and so forth, but it's very much on paper. And when the plan is done, the design is out, what do? You need somebody to bring it out to site to execute it. And traditionally, in civil engineering world, the person who does it on site, we call them the site engineer. Am I not right? I think that also can correct me if I'm wrong. And this site engineer really, I believe, the role of a site engineer in civil engineering terms is actually the role of a civil engineering technologist. So if we look at it that way, I think the distinction becomes very clear. So one is doing the job in the office, if you like, the other is getting the hands dirty, okay, literally or figuratively. And having said that, my dear students, you will have seen that we spend a lot of time in the workshops, we spend a lot of time in the lab, we spend a lot of times in the practical session, if you realize that. And you may also have realized that, my dear students, if you compare your curriculum and your syllabus with the students from FCAP, the Civil and Environmental Engineering Faculty, is it still environmental? FCAP, Civil Engineering Faculty in general, you probably say, yeah, we have the same courses, we even have similar syllabus. But the difference is that when you look at your student learning time, the allocation given to the practical and theory part, you can see that you spend a lot of time doing the practical side of things. All right, and you have realized as well that in your learning now in the university, even though it's online now, you have noticed that you do spend a lot of time in that area. You put a lot of your focus in that, where your lecturer will be directing you towards that. So what we're talking about here. So let's take a simple example. Let's say in a course, all right, in a particular course, you are supposed to do a project, right? We do this problem-based learning, right? So almost every other core subject, there is a project in there that you conduct in group. And you will probably have also noticed that your lecturer will always give you a problem, it's problem-based, and the problem is always a real one, a case study or problem that's taken in from the site, right? Usually with a picture, description, and some layout, some plans, and so on, so on, as real as it gets, right? And your job is almost always to be asked to come up with a solution, which is practical, which is implementable on site, and your report must include how your proposed solution is going to be executed on site. So the key word here is, again, site. For civil engineers or civil engineering technologies, the word site means a lot, because the word site, the term site, work site, job site, to us is really the construction site, right? And I think probably the only engineering area where you couldn't, it's almost impossible to implement anything at all without a site visit, and that's civil engineering. Because electrical, mechanical, chemical, you need not actually be on site to see what's going on. You just need the problem given to you and can start designing stuff. right? And having said that, when you have the design having prepared by the engineers, you bring that design out. So what are designs? We say designs are simply two things: the plans, all sorts of plans in there, all the elevations and so on, and the specifications. So these two you bring out and try to execute on site, whether it's to construct a bridge, to erect an embankment, or to rehabilitate the shoreline, or whatsoever that can be, any civil engineering works at all in all the areas. You'll find that you'll be the one troubleshooting on site. So I think the two keywords that we're listening here: troubleshooting and implementation. So we also know that on paper, everything looks beautiful, but when you bring it on site, they are almost 90% different from whatever they have planned on paper. So with that, I hope it gives a general idea, my dear students, as a reminder of what distinguishes between you and the civil engineering student. Thank you, Dr. Andre.
Right. Thank you, Prof. Chan. So it is safe to say that actually the role of civil engineering and construction engineering technology has been there all the time, where the job scope is differentiated on the design itself and the construction site itself, right? So when our student graduate from our university or our institutions, normally industry will expect something from them. We don't they may not expect that high. For example, like DCC receiving the graduate from UTHM. So Dato Zul, do you have any expectation on the graduate from conventional engineering and the new part of engineering technology? Because like Prof. Chan mentioned just now, the engineering technology may not study about design that much. So we are studying more on the application side, developing the method for solving the case study, for example. So Dato, you have any experience on that?
Okay, I do employ civil engineer in my organization as a consultant because we involve in the project management. What I would like to stress here, but unfortunately, as of today, I have yet to employ any of the graduate from UTHM. As a project manager, as we mentioned just now by Professor, we actually not only looking at the design produced by various consultants to see that it is fit for its purpose. Fit for purpose. Fit for purpose means it entails the needs highlighted by the client, as well as it meets all the design requirements for good engineering practice, as well as meeting the local authority requirement, and of course, within the cost that has been designated or allocated for it. So as a project manager at a very pre-contract stage, I'm looking into that, whereby my civil engineers also looking at the civil engineers matters. But as far as construction is concerned, it's a far-reaching from what was drawn in the drawings. It is sometimes that what going to be implemented, 20-30% of it are far away from what has been expected in the design. During the design stage, in the laptop, using the software that they have, there are a lot of things sometimes does not fit among the drawings produced by various disciplines. So at the construction site, due to the situation at the site, there are a lot of things actually unexpected happen. Sometimes things has been designed at a configuration may not be able to be implemented, and amendment and retrofit design need to be carried out based on what is actually happening at the site. So what I'm trying to say here is that there will be a need in the future, especially in the fields of project management, that those to be appointed by a client to manage the project, especially involving construction site where program of the schedule of completion is tight, where the site is not greenfield, it is a brownfield area, whereby money is very important to the client, or involving hazardous material that may cause fire or other damage, then any step taken at the site has its own risk that require a very specific knowledge how construction should be carried out. It is therefore no longer what I call the understanding of the public or of the construction industry people, that those things are in the hands of the contractor. If technology is working with the contractor, much the better, so that they are much aware about their role. If they're working as a project manager or even as the site engineer from the consultant side, it is very important for them to know and to ensure that the programs of work are actually in tandems or tally with the site condition. It's very important for them to ensure that the program of work is actually in tandem with the requirements of labor, of the resources to be obtained by the contractors. It is also must make sure that the local authority requirement pertaining to the implementation of the project were in tandem with the program produced by the contractor. As in my case, there are a lot of time that contractor unable to complete the job within what was programmed. It is therefore our duty to ensure that reprogramming exercise, reintroduction of technology, reintroduction of method, shiftment of work and priority, and then the procurement advancements, the process of financials, all those has to be made known to the contractor and to the client, so that this can be passed on in way to mitigate any potential delay at the site. For my project, about 400 million in North CIQ, Bukit Kayu Hitam, where I'm the project manager, we were given only about 13 months to complete 100 over million worth of projects. It's a very uphill battle. It is a brownfield site. There's a lot of time contractors are unable to carry out their tasks as being programmed due to disturbance of the existing life of the complex. At the same time, there's a lot of movement of the transport. There's a lot of movement of people. There's a lot of requirement by local authority. There's a lot of things we are not aware that we discover as we progress underneath. For instance, the telco provider having a spaghetti wire underneath the site, which are very sensitive because it brought the signal to across the country, i.e. Thailand. Any disturbance or damage to the particular infrastructure may cause a huge problem to our country and Thailand. So there are a lot of work cannot be done at the area affected by this. And contractors also never expected in the program to include this, even though pilot trenching and underground mapping were being carried out, but somehow or other it does not accurately determine what is actually until it being carried out at the site. So as a project manager, I'll make sure that I have a plan to it. I plan with the authority, I plan with the telco organization, I plan with the client to inform them about the situation, the client to inform them of potential monetary involvement in doing what I'm going to implement, the potential time delay that we have to overcome that by way of helping by the help of the contractors, and at the same time so with the telco to ensure that there's a delay in their process of procurement in obtaining on realignments of the particular services, so that it does not affect the progress of the work. You can imagine this. These all are away from what was in the design, as we mentioned just now. Can you imagine a technologist who have this particular knowledge not only salvage the project in terms of time derailment, but only as well as but also providing a method whereby the client are informed about the potential cost involving in doing so and how to mitigate the cost, and at the very same time coordinating from people outside the site to ensure work at the site were carried out in the manner is supposed to be, i.e. the telco himself, which normally under this one we have 7 or 6 telcos in the country, to monitor, to assist them, to provide them, to make them committed to carry out the work within the time frame that we have. There is another technologies, another human relationship factor that need to be dealt with. So knowing all these factors, what best person could do is the person who understands the contract, is the person who understands the processes of doing development, from submitting the building plan approval, submitting planning approval until the issuance of CCC, that you are learning. At the same time, those who understand procurement, that involving the procurement of the processors of the telco, who understand the what they call this authority concern, and understand the construction, understand the technique, understand the methodology, understand the method statement. You can imagine if you are able to do so, I believe in the future, the criteria of choosing project manager is based on their ability and track record, how fast they could complete the job, one, two, how much lower the cost it could be, three, how much they mitigate the potential danger of cost and time derailment that they are able to do. So these are the area where technologies can play. All in all, you can be anybody. You can be civil engineer, you can be architect, you can be anybody. It is a very much of your in-depth knowledge of your own technologies, where from that people will recognize you. I'm a quantity surveyor, but I've been project manager. I become a SO, not small project, up to 400 million projects, one at one time. And there are a lot of 100 million of projects that I'm appointed as a lead consultant to lead design of the others. I'm commenting the design of the architect, the M&E, and the CNS, even though I'm trained as quantity surveyor. Let alone you, as an engineer who have all the vast knowledge that I have not been trained when I was at the university. But it is very much the desire to be a professional of all round. Because in the future, you will not be recognized alone as what you are. You will be recognized as the one who have the all-round knowledge that bring benefit to the parties in the construction industry. I stop at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato. It's a very great input, I can say. So I can say to the student right here, right now, it's a live testimony from the practitioner himself. So things that you have studied about contracts, about the site preparation, about the construction method, actually is a very great topic to be discussed, to be studied, and I think you can work further on that on the next lecture, maybe later on. And I also like to remind that all participants is free to give their questions through the chat, or if let's say you want to interrupt, just raise your hand. I will look at the at my screen, and we'll go to your question at the end of the discussions immediately. All right. So please ask a question if you have any of it. And Prof. Chan, now we have the certain batch of graduates from our institutions, and we have prepared them with all these subjects, with all the hard skill and soft skill to work in the construction area. So normally maybe student cannot really see, do I really have it? Like, do I really own the skill? Like Dato Zul mentioned just now, he is a quantity surveyor, but he has the willingness to study about civil engineering, about the construction technology, and look at where he is right now, right? Doing of billions of projects and going high beyond our imagination, right? So us as a construction engineering, as a civil engineering technologist, do we really have that skill? It's like the competitor is not really our friend. It's not really graduate from other university, but the competitor itself is ourselves. How far we are willing to learn? What about your opinion, Prof. Chan?
All right, thank you, Dr. Andre. I would like to take on what Dato has mentioned just now. If my dear students, if you took note of the wisdom of what Dato shared just now about multi-skill, multitasking, and you notice that whether you're an engineer, whether you're engineering technologies, whether you're a QS, or whether you're an architect, anybody at all, from any profession at all in the civil engineering world, you could be ultimately the project manager. And we do know that in the project, big or small, the project manager is almost like quote unquote the little king of the kingdom of the site, because the project manager runs and rules everything, and from finances to planning, from sourcing materials to acquiring the people, the expertise in getting the technology, making sure the finances are in place, making sure there are backup plans, and so on and so forth. The list just goes on and on and on. And you think about it, for such a person to function effectively, he or she will need to be knowledgeable, knowledgeable, right? You know everything, all right? And skilled, meaning that you are aware. You are aware of the softwares to be adopted. You are, you know, as basic as you know how to mix concrete, and you know what kind of grade of concrete is required for which part, which structural part of a building, for example, all right? And you need to be quick on your thinking. Quick on your thinking meaning that you could literally think on your feet. There's no time in the construction world. Oh, we have a problem. Troubleshoot it now. The pipe has burst, is leaking. Accidentally hit by the backhoe. Oh, I got to wait. Give me 5 hours to think. No, you can't. I need to Google. I need to check out YouTube. No, you got to be there and then your subordinate expect you to give an answer. What to do now, boss? The pipe has burst now, but it wasn't meant to burst. By accident, our backup operator has hit the pipe and it's burst. And because it's burst, we can't cast our concrete. Now what are we going to do? You see? So, and as Dato has highlighted, in the construction industry, time is money. I repeat, time is money. Any slight delay, whether it's a day, 2 days, going up to a week and so on, so on, is all money. And the delays are not totally not encouraged, and it's like a big no-no, a big taboo in the construction industry, right? And as a project manager, which it could be you, my dear students, eventually, when you see with time, when you graduate and in the near future, when you start working, your role will start shifting. Because as you move up the ladder in the construction industry, eventually you go up there. When you come to what we call the managing level, the managers, and in the civil engineering world, we call them the project manager, all right? And I already told you earlier on about how important and how important and high ranking, if you like, such a role is in the construction project. So having said that, the skills that Dato mentioned just now, that all that you are, if you look through it, if you think about it carefully, you are good. If you are not really learning it, you are going to go through all these skills and knowledge in your curriculum, all right? As the basic things like mathematics, physics, materials, then you move up to all the core disciplines like soil mechanics, structures, hydraulics, and then you move up to more complex and advanced courses in your electives, respective electives, whether you're in construction and environment or building services, right? And having said all that, I would like to pick up another term that Dato mentioned, telco, telecommunications. You see, eventually we will get there anyway. The world will get there. But with the pandemic coming in, perhaps one of the silver lining is that it kinds of accelerated or forced us instead of walking and running, we got to literally jump forward on this in this area. That's telecommunications. Regardless of whichever area we are in, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, IT, whatsoever, everybody has got to jump on the bandwagon. Simple as today we could meet online. Why are we meeting online? How could we meet online? Because of the internet services around. It doesn't matter whether it's 5G or just 2G or no G, it doesn't matter. But the fact that because of the telecommunications infrastructure in place, we could be meeting online like this virtually. And it after about a year plus of the pandemic lockdown, stuff like that, and there's no sign of it subsiding or slowing down within the near future that we can foresee. So this is becoming, there's a growing demand actually for such services, telecommunications, right? And so we in the civil engineering field got to start thinking about digital investments, meaning that we can't be thinking in a very stereoscopic way on I'm in civil engineering technology, I only want to learn about concrete, water, steel bars, and perhaps woodwork. No, that is so not going to work now. And you probably would have realized too, my dear students, that your lecturers over time in this third semester, in this lockdown period, are already moving towards getting you to explore new tools. Do you realize that? Tools, not hand tools, not screwdrivers or to go, no. Tools as in apps, softwares, freewares. Do you notice that? Design softwares, they are free for all to use. Anybody can download and use them for fun or for learning purposes. And you also have noticed that if you explore far enough, many of these paid softwares are giving out free student versions as well. So to help students learn in universities and schools during this lockdown period. You see, these are some of the CSRs that big firms are doing. And you also will have noticed that you no longer submit hard copies, your tests, your assignments, your projects, no. And you also will notice that we no longer are asked to submit a lot of technical reports. We are asked to submit technical videos, ebooks, flipbooks, and all sorts of other electronic mediums. being employed so that you could submit your work. You realize that? Okay, so that is a shift. 1 year ago, it wasn't like this. Do you remember? 1 year ago, it wasn't like this. And now we need to do that. So that is about telco, that's about telecommunication infrastructure. And the second thing before I round this part of my sharing is another part that we should be looking at, my dear students, is about the smart city initiative. Smart city. I'm sure we in the civil engineering area, we are very alert or aware and sensitive towards the word cities, because we know cities are bandar, where everybody wants to move towards to. If I live in the village, eventually I want to live in the bandar. We always say that, right? And why bandar? Because of facilities, because of safety, because of convenience, because of services, and blah, blah, blah. So now to build a city is not good enough. To develop a small town into a city is not good enough. We are talking about smart cities now. And when we talk about smart cities, we talk a lot about what? Green technology. We talk about connectivity. And we cannot help but hook it up with what? Telecommunications. Do you see why? Because the lockdown has educated us in a way, educated or expedited our education about the need to make our mobility less physical. You realize that? To make ourselves physically mobilized is a very carbon intensive activity. Whether you travel by motorcycle, cars, or aeroplane, or these days we like go to space, it's all leaving a very big carbon footprint. You realize that? Because we are still relying a lot on the fossil fuel. All right. And we can talk about all the renewable energy as much as we like, but at the moment, there's not enough initiatives, there's not enough momentum to get that to be in full replacement of fossil fuel. So that is another agenda totally. Okay, so let's get back to earth and talk about these smart city initiatives and combining that with your telecommunication infrastructure, which is they have to go hand in hand, they're going in tandem. So I think I'll wrap this up by telling you, my dear students, you've got to start broadening your horizon, whichever subject, whichever course you're learning in class now. Because you could be learning soil mechanics. You are not going to be just memorizing or rote learning about soil mechanics, about rocks, about foundations, retaining structures. No. You're going to start thinking about, for example, if I were to build an earth dam, how can I ensure that the earth dam is digitized? How can the earth dam be digitized? Come on, it's just an earth structure. Of course it can be digitized. Do we not realize that anything that's built by a civil engineer, civil engineering technologies they have a lifespan, meaning that and there's always a chance that they can collapse, they can break down, they can have failures. So we are talking about digitizing our structures, we are talking about putting in safety and monitoring tools, we are talking about sensors that tell us that it's time to do something. The movement is too much. It has never experienced such high level of water behind the dam, for example. So now the pressure is coming in because we have this alert system and we are being informed before it actually collapses. Bridges, we no longer have to do yearly inspection to see whether the reinforcement bars are rotting or things are rusting. No, we have an alert system that tells us without even us going out there to the side to see what is going on. So things like that, we are going to be remotely monitoring things, measuring things, and keeping us safe as well as keeping the structures out there safe. And see that, my dear students. I hope this will actually open up your mind into what you're learning and making what you're learning or what you think you are learning very in a very hard way now because of the non-face-to-face situation. It can be fun because you now have more time, more opportunity to explore beyond what is in the module or what is in the textbook. Thank you, Dr. Andre.
Thank you, Prof. Chan. It's a great insight. So we can say that regardless of our background, civil engineering technology, quantity surveyor, the industry after we graduate is beyond the scope of our academic learning, the 4 years academic learning, right? So we have to prepare ourselves with the digital literacy, things that we have studied, looking at the current trend in the industry right now, because the technological movement in industry is very rapid, right? So again, student, I can you can hear clearly right now the live testimony again from the professor, from Prof. Chan, the expert in geotechnical area, on how you can develop yourself, not only from the basic lecture in the class, but how you develop yourself to catch up with the current industrial development out there, right? And we have TS Luthfi again with us right now. Okay, dah okay semua, TS Luthfi? Everything okay right now? Sorry, I cannot hear your voice.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Saya dah reset saya punya modem tadi, so
Okay,
should be okay lah.
Alhamdulillah. So I can give back the floor to you, okay?
Okay, right. Okay.
All right, so
Terima
thank you.
kasih.
I give back the
Thank you, Dr. Okay, thank you, Dr. Andre, for the backup. Okay, so I would like to apologize to our panel, okay, for the technical issues. Okay, so okay, my question, okay. Since Dr. Chan did mention about the pandemic, okay, my question is about our latest situation lah. Okay, so about the pandemic COVID-19. Okay, Dato. With all the restriction during the pandemic, okay, and looking it from trend from year 2020, okay, so we had about 1.5 years of the pandemic, okay. So how big the impact to the human resources demand, okay, in terms of site lah, okay, engineers, supervisors, workers, okay, in the nearest future. Okay, so how we look at it?
Okay. First of all, I do not have the statistic or data to back up or to give you a figure indication how that affecting the current and the future employments of the engineers. What is certain, based on my experience for the last almost 1.5 years, government spending for the infrastructure development in the country has been curtailed or cut by half. If you know that by half, we're talking about billions of were not spent for construction. Billions. And then those billions that being spent by the government is only meant for maybe 70% of it for mega projects. Maybe, I don't have the right statistics. So left with 30 to 40% with a small project. I'm talking about 50 million and below. And when the majority of the people who are involved in the industry is the one who is doing this small size project. Those above 1 billion project is a very few, and as far as the numbers of people that they employ, also not that many. Because, and then they are involving also foreigners that further hampering the employments of our locals. That's one. Second thing, that the movement control has reduced the mobility of the engineers. As I mentioned just now, that your role is more towards at the site. When the progress of the site will reduce up to 20%, or even sometimes at zero, ground zero at any one time, especially when one of my project was asked to close down for 2 weeks. They mean at ground zero. So you can imagine that there's not all works are actually can be supervised through BC like we are doing now. Not all of it can be done through online. And there are still need and observation being carried out and to understand the situation that we have to be at the site. So judging from that, less and less people are actually will be employed in the future, at least for the next 2 years. Because to recover back the construction industry, it may take 1 or 2 years to go to the normal one in 2019. I'm talking about 2019 progress. So in order for them to go progress better than that, whereby the projection of yours in producing this graduate is actually, there's no contingency being taken to take care of COVID situation, which we never knew that happened now. So you are still continue producing these students. My advice to the student, like myself in my construction industry, we're getting no more new project for almost 2 years. We are getting what we are doing now is the old project. I'm lucky enough, I never entrenched anybody until now. But there are a lot of 60 to 70% of my colleagues has experienced reduction in salaries or reduce the numbers of their staff, be in construction, consultancy or development, because there's not much project actually be able to launch in the market. Developer is reducing the capacity of selling because offtake problems and financial problems, whereby the buyer do not have a proper job, then they have their ability to take loan also reducing tremendously. Not only the ability to take loan reduced tremendously because of job loss, but also because of their salary. The amount of ability for them to pay also being reduced. So that make up the lowest numbers of overall turnover as far as construction in terms of dollars in the country. Because what used to be 1 million value apartment being constructed, now they are keen to only construct 300,000 and below. You can imagine there's a lot of vacuum there. In any circumstances like myself, can I just sit down and relax? Definitely not. Because of the pandemic situation, there's a lot of contractual issues. There's a lot of dispute. There's a lot of argument. There's a lot of people unable to perform. But be it the client, be it the contractor, be it the consultant, be it the purchaser. So we are now looking into these people providing what they call an assistant in terms of legal. So I have a few projects now from the buyer perspective, where the buyer would like to sue the developers by virtue of them to fail to deliver the job on time, or producing project were not in accordance with the specification that they are signed in. One, they sign off. The other part is that we also notice that the contractor do not receive payment. We also notice that the contractor has delay in their project. We also notice that there's a lot of work done by contractor who were shoddy. We also notice that the client is very impatient about the slowness of the contractor in producing job and substandard material that being used. So there's a lot of contractual issues now that surface. So I'm offering myself in this particular area. So what I'm trying to say is that the knowledge base that I have in construction, the knowledge base that I have in contract, and understand the various form of contract, that I have been also an expert witness to the court. I'm using that expertise to shift myself to the other way so that I can have some job. At the very same time now, I also of the opinion, the need for me to expedite production. We cannot be delaying in production because time is an essence and people cannot wait. And furthermore, they will be less relying on self-supervision, standing supervision. There will be more of IT facilities in the services. It's a very important that movement control order has somehow opened up faster an avenue that we should start 10 years ago. This MCO forced people to use whatever avenue, even though you are at home. That does not stop us from calling tenders. That's not stopping us from design. I have a big project by UMW Toyota, a big factory. We were doing during MCO. The process of tendering was done during that particular period. The process of interviewing the contractor were done in that particular period. Even the awarding was done in that particular period. All value engineering, all design evaluation were done at my home, at my house. So what we could do now is that we must be fast changing ourselves. For that also, I would like to give my opinion that university, in line of these circumstances, in the next 2 years, 6 out of 10 projects requiring engineer require a student who has the IT knowledge. We must produce this. You must shape and change a little bit of your syllabus to allow the student to have this knowledge. So I would like very much after this to employ people in technologies. And then because of your broad knowledge, I believe you are very good to be at the site. You are very good in the manufacturing sectors of the construction material because you understand material. Because by doing that, you are able to have become a quality controller. I also would like to recommend you to become a project controller at site as far as documentation as far as progress of the work is concerned, as far as quality is concerned. So a big project, especially those from China, I experienced with China construction company, which is belong to the state of China. It's a state of China company, not an organization belong to an ordinary people from China. They have a very good document control, and they have a very good way of monitoring the projects in terms of quality, in terms of number of resources, in terms of number of locality of the movement of the people, in terms of the delay and costing of the delay. If we have a meeting with them, you can imagine that any point in time that we have in trouble to explain about a certain thing, this one architect, a lady architect about, I don't know, early 40s, her age from China, bring the laptop, can automatically provide through the slide or through the screen the issue that you raised at the site, live. Whereas we as a consultant still looking and scribble, looking at the drawing, where is the drawing, what drawing is to be, what happened to the particular drawing, how that drawing is related to an architect and their M&E, whether any problem of the crisscrossing issues or not. But this architect with one laptop able to tell the people there's a problem with the drawing between architect and M&E, one. The problem now at the site, they just show you the photos, which is taken yesterday, and then show them what actually the actual problems. And they also recommend what needs to be done, instead of waiting for the consultant to tell them what needs to be done. And tell them also the consequences in doing so in terms of cost and time and the probability of them to claim for EOT on the subject matters of the issues. So these are the knowledge that in my own construction now, about 860 million. We belong to one very big public listed company. We have this particular person who do nothing. You can imagine 3-4 years back down the line, you just mentioned about the date, from whose consultant or the drawing or the letters or the information or the photos. It just a click of a button, a couple of minutes, be able to provide those information, and with those information, everybody can make decision. So these are the knowledge that I feel needed for each side. If technologies like engineer having this kind of knowledge, have your client, the employer of yours, providing this kind of input, you will help them to manage the project well. You will help them to provide information for the consultant to decide. You help them to reduce the cost. You help them to manage the time if delay do occur. You help them to provide mitigation exercise with accurate decision to be made by parties involved in the construction industry. So this is seem to be using the tools that we have, as we mentioned by Professor just now. But the ability to use the tools against the project that you are managing it is the one that the skill needed by the parties. Even they are engineers, civil, mechanical, electrical, architect, or planners for that matter, not many of them acquire and have the necessary skill to do this. So I'm suggesting this could be the way for you, even though the job is scarce, not many people will employ, but with this ability of yours, special ability of yours, I believe you will be among the one chosen to be employed compared to the other traditional engineers that already, or which having the same qualification that you, graduated about the same time that you, but with this qualification, you may be preferred to be appointed or at all be upgraded, better salary being awarded to you. So my suggestion, do now, as been Professor has mentioned, I'm happy to hear that the university has moved on towards the direction. It is no longer required for you just to sit down and look at the current syllabus. You got to move. You got to move that working from home is actually as good as working at the office, or much better, because you are reducing in terms of time, you are reducing the carbon footprint, you are reducing in terms of what they call processes, because every meeting that we're going to attend, there are people from all over the place has to converge to one place. That costs time, money, carbon footprint, and times of traveling is actually wastage. that can be reused to produce a good job. We implement it now. What we need is a student who has the necessary knowledge. The student do not now having this privilege, relax at home. You must actually, if you want to become someone, you want to become somebody in the future, you want to become a good professional, it starts from now as a student. If you have a desire to learn the curve and then to scale the ladder, you must show your ability while you as a student. I believe when I was a student, I worked part-time to support my university studies. I do attend lectures during the daytimes. I work at night to get some money. And I never stopped doing that throughout my year as a student. That means from the student time, I already slogged myself to be what I am today. I may not be as successful as others, but judging from self, I'm from poor family. I'm very happy what I am today. It's all bounds to one thing. Allah want it to be that way. But the desire and perseverance and the needs and hunger for knowledge is the one that bring me what I am today. So I hope and encourage the student to have the same aspire, scale the hill, scale the mountain, and you can be one with the knowledge that you have. Thank you.
Okay, Dato. So it will be a challenge, yes, for us. Okay, just now I think we got a question from our audience. So maybe Darshini, if you have a question, okay, you can proceed with the question.
Thank you, Sir Luthfi, and good morning, everyone. I hope you guys have a good day today. My question for today is that, okay, when it's come to big projects in our country, like, Menara Merdeka PNB 118 and also like Twin Towers, I wonder why our country is still depending on the architecturing firm and also engineers from the overseas, since we have good engineers in our country. For example, for Menara Merdeka PNB 118, the architecturing firm was Fender Katsalidis Architects from Australia. And my question is, what are the steps and also the initiative that the government should take so that in upcoming years we are not still depend on the overseas architectures and we are using our own engineers from our country, which mean our local engineers? That's my question. Thank you.
So the question, so maybe Dato can answer the question.
Okay, I answer partly, maybe shared with the professor to answer.
Okay, right.
It is a good question, and it's a good observation that you cause wonders, and you don't like these wonders. Why we are giving such a big project to others, including the big infrastructure? We are actually relying on the overseas consultant as well as the contractors to undertake. This is true. It's a true thing. Why I was not given the project like Twin Tower when I'm actually another professional? But I had to understand myself, my capability. To design those kind of structure is not that simple. First of all, at a particular time, none of Malaysian consultant has the experience to design such a high-rise building. We have done quite numbers of high-rise building, but not that high. Further to that, those design is actually look simple, but it's not easy to undertake. It's not easy to build high-rise building. It involves and entails a lot of knowledge in terms of structure, in terms of architectural, in terms of M&E. The lift alone for Twin Tower is special lift, is double deck lift, which we never experienced before. And then these kinds of structure at a particular time, way back 20 years ago when the building is built for this Twin Tower, the consultants of the engineers are able to simulate the structural components of it against the lateral force. How actually the building move from bottom to the top, if I'm not mistaken, something a couple of feet, then it's still standing. And what kind of structure that able to take that kinds of flexibility? And that kind of modeling prepared by them were not used to be of our knowledge in the country at a particular time. So they have all this knowledge. Why they have this knowledge? Because they are much advanced from us from the very day one. In many, many circumstances. Even though they don't build high-rise building that many, like the one Burj Tower in Dubai. They have not done that before, but they have done a lot in New York, something like 60, 70 story high building. But the most important thing, these technologies belong to them. I don't like to say this, but I would like to quote for the sake of reference only. Benjamin Netanyahu is the Israel president. When I say this does not mean that I'm like what this Israel has done to Palestine. No. We must learn from them. You can imagine, Netanyahu said, they were isolated before. Soon to be, those isolating them will be isolated by technologies. The technologies that they do, I just want to repeat what he said. He said that in the barrens of this desert, where agriculture is almost impossible, they have come up with a precision technologies in terms of agriculture, whereby they are able to know each plant needs how much water and fertilizer. We're still talking about the barren land of ours unutilized for agriculture. Can you imagine the difference of the level that we have? These are the good things that they said. I don't want to mention a lot of things he mentioned, but I don't want to mention, otherwise we start thinking about so far we are from them. No, I just want to mention about, in order for them to survive and conquer the world, they are only 1% population of the world, out of 100%, 1% of Israel. But they are control about 30 to 35% of the richness of the world by virtue of technologies that they have. So we can cry ourselves why we are not given the opportunity. You are the one of young engineer, as I mentioned to you just now. Move forward from the syllabus alone. Study as hard as you can. Develop the skill. Go beyond what you are expected to be. You must have multidiscipline, got multi-degree, got masters, got PhD. You must pursue the highest territory of education. Unleash, you must do a lot of things. As I mentioned to you, I'm old, but I have done that way back 20 years ago to study other field of area of expertise so that I can be one accepted and being awarded by my board, become the best QS in 2010 in the country by virtue of innovation created by me during the industry of construction. So actually there's nothing wrong with us. But the problem with us is that we are complacent. We do not want to challenge ourselves. We like to talk about the success story of the others. We do not want to emulate ourselves. How could I do myself to ensure that I'll be the one who propagate the ideas or become one being appointed in the future of the civil engineers in technologies, designing multi-story, 200-story high, for instance, the first in the country, or even in other part of the world. We only not only talking about in the country. You can imagine how these people of professionals from other countries, not only good in their country, but being export of their knowledge and provide work throughout the world. Why we employ them? Because of their capabilities of doing that we do not have. So we must supplement that with the knowledge. Nothing can beat knowledge and experience. You must enhance your upstairs. You must enhance your upstairs to the maximum possibilities. As I said, you must be world-class engineer, even though you are graduated from Pago. It is not Pago that concerns you. It's the head, the upstairs, the brain that God gives to us must be utilized to the maximum of it. And you must become the top notch of engineers in the country, Only then you can export your knowledge to the other country. There's nothing can be done unless you are the best one. Always aspire to be the best one. Professor mentioned about the Ferrari. That was I bought it about 12 years ago. You can imagine 12 years ago, I already bought a Ferrari worth about 1 million at a particular time. Now, to buy one Ferrari costs 2.5 million of the same Ferrari of the current model. It seems so very expensive, even to maintain it. But it's become handy for you to pay, and people are willing to pay you your fees up to 6 million in one single project. How could people pay you 6 million when you actually worth about 6,000 a month as an engineer or as a quantity surveyor? It's very much what you can produce and help the industry, and what best you could produce that help your client employ you. I stop there and thank you for the question. I think continue,
Okay.
Professor, please.
Okay, thank you, Dato. So, Dr. Chan, how do us respond as an academician at the university to that challenge?
Alright, thank you, Luthfi, and I really got to congratulate Dato for the insight. And students, if you don't feel fired up, I feel very fired up. And listen to the words that Dato has used there.
Yeah,
The aspiration. Yeah, very motivational. The aspiration. And bear in mind, Dato wasn't as fortunate as you and me. He came from a difficult family, poor family, right? And nothing was handed down to him. You know, nothing was given to him on a silver platter. He had to work very, very hard for it, even to go to school. All right. And I remember Dato told us this story. He is very, very particular and very, very concerned about his children's education because he knows how important that is. Just like what you're doing now, my dear students, mahasiswa-mahasiswi di university. Dengar baik-baik ya, mahasiswa-mahasiswi bukan pelajar, bukan murid-murid ya. Nama pun mahasiswa-mahasiswi. Dengar perkataan maha tu. The highest now, when you get to university, get to Menara Gading. So let me just finish story about Dato. He talked about his students' education. You know how far Dato went? For every one of his child, because he believed in the British system, he brought them to the UK, scouting from which university that's most suitable for the bidang that they want to study, to the extent. To the extent. So we ask ourselves, okay, let's not talk about, okay, wow, we go so far, this, that. No, we're talking about how serious do we take our study? To what extent do we take our studies? Do we moan when our internet is down? Internet hari ni tak bagus, hujan bagus, tak ada kelas. Or whenever there's class, we tell lecturer, banyak homework lah. Nanti baru hantar assignment ni boleh tak? Doktor, banyak sangat lah. Minggu ni tak payah lah. Minggu depan ada subjek lagi, ada projek lain, ada assignment lain. 1 minggu lagi lah, doktor. Minggu ke-14, bertimbun the assignment. Baru nak nangis. Then baru nak breakdown. Then we ask ourselves, salah siapa? Salah saya kot, sebab pensyarah you tak cukup doa untuk you. Salah saya, sebab tak cukup remind you. Salah saya, sebab tak timbang rasa bagi sangat banyak homework kot. Macam tu lah students kan. Bear in mind, you want to be successful, you want to be different from other people, you want to stand out. Of all the penguins, they're all black and white. You are this one penguin that is black and white, but with a little yellow dot on your forehead, for example. But you may be a penguin all black and white, but you can dance, tap dancing better than the others. How come you can tap dance better than the others? You eat the same, live the same? Because you train a lot harder. Let's take a simple example. Who is the fastest man on earth? Yes, to be the fastest man, to run the fastest, yes, you must be gifted. On the other hand, you need to be what? You need to be training a lot harder than other people. Right, so the fastest man is Usain Bolt. Where is Usain Bolt from?
Usain Bolt.
America. America. England. Yeah. Where is he from? Yeah, American, Southern American, Latin American, from a country called Jamaica. Jamaica is famous for what? Making cigar.
Reggae.
You see, reggae. Usain Bolt.
Reggae.
But he is famous worldwide. Worldwide, everybody knows he's the fastest man. The way he runs, the skill he has, how hard he trained. Did he born lahir dapat lari? No. But he trained so hard. Similarly to all the other people who have been claimed to be talented, gifted, so great, so terror, gini gitu. Even if you are a genius, you still work very hard. I repeat, even if you are gifted upstairs, you still work very hard. You don't believe me? Try to read up the autobiography of people like Einstein, who is supposed to come up with a theory of relativity that until today, not many people understood. The one man who probably really quite understood also died, Stephen Hawking. Macam tu lah. And it may be easier to see the athletes, people who play world-class tennis, world-class football, world-class cricket. How could they do that? It's like, oh, you don't know how much time people spend training. People who play tennis, for example, Rafael Nadal, how many hours he put in training every day? How many hours? Buka mata je dah on the treadmill running. And then wet balls. Apa nama tu Roger Federer. Yes, he's a Swiss. You know where he trains to build up his lungs and stamina? In the mountains, in the Alps, where the oxygen level is low, where it's cold. So you train so hard, you run up there, not run on the normal grounds, you run up there so cold, so thin the oxygen is, so your lungs are built up, so your lungs are stronger than other people. So when you wet balls in the Wimbledon finals, you can drive for 6 hours, you are still there, standing and lifting the trophy. Then we ask, oh, how come the fellow can do it? So we come back to Earth again, then we ask ourselves, we are going to be civil engineering technologies, we're going to be professional. Yeah, we are not going to be an ordinary person on the roadside. No, you are going to graduate as civil engineering technology. It's a professional occupation. Profession, yeah, macam doctor, macam engineer, macam dentist, macam lawyer. It's a profession. Dah kata professional kan? Jadi where is our dignity? Dan Datuk sebut tadi kan? How far will we take it? Lecturer kata buat assignment A, kita assignment A aja lah. Siap minta negotiation lagi. Kurangkan sikit boleh tak? Instead of, good, this is assignment, I won't go beyond this. I explored my modules textbook. Now I go to Google, I go beyond that. I check out what are the top universities doing with such a similar project. Soil mechanics is taught worldwide. Any civil engineering technology punya program mesti ada soil mechanics contohnya lah. So if I get a project or assignment from my lecturer, I start Googling up for answers and all that is very fun. You don't even need to step foot in the library these days. Even when you're here on campus, you don't go to the library, do you? You don't need to, because you can access their database, or better still, you access the free www World Wide Web. So everywhere you can access actually, and you are hacker enough, you could actually hack into Cambridge Library, for example, and access their resources there. That's a different story. What I'm trying to say here is that you should be, if you are that resourceful, you are that aspiring, what will you do? It's a simple assignment. I explore Google, I ask Miss Yahoo, what do I do next? I go into Cambridge University, tap into a civil engineering school, because they do have civil engineering technology over there, and see what are the projects, what are the assignments that the professors give over there to the student. Oh, similar this topic, similar this assignment, and see how the students, sample examples, sample solutions that the students over there come up with. And I benchmark myself from UTHM Parade Raja Royal Creek or UTHM Pago Johor with somebody from Cambridge University, where you say Cam, everybody knows it's Cambridge. You say Ox, everybody knows it's Oxford. Do we take ourselves that seriously? Do we take ourselves that far when it's just a click away? Not yet, but we are very many clicks. We are very, very quickly, in a second, 10 clicks away from Netflix. In a second, we are 20 clicks away from the latest celebrity news. Very quick. I'm not reprimanding you. Bukan marah, bukan sindir, bukan. I tengah remind myself. Digital kan, kita senang semua digital. So everything a click away, a swipe away, on the phone or things like that. But we spend a lot more time on benda-benda yang melekakan. Leisure. Leisure is a lot more relaxing than studying, learning. What did Dato say? He was trained as a QS. Just for your information, QS is one of the toughest subjects if you're learning civil engineering, and it's one of the toughest programs around. Not many people can graduate from a QS school or QS program successfully. Many just hop aja. You can ask Dato about it, because I have friends in the QS area and we know how it works. And that's why many of the Malaysian projects still engage QS, senior QS, experienced QS as their project manager, and they're paid very, very well. But they have to work very, very hard as well to oversee the project. So, right, again, I'll pull you back to earth. I like to simpulkan apa yang Dato cakap tu, minta izinnya Dato for the students here. It has nothing to do with civil engineering technology or civil engineering industry or whatsoever. It has got to do with us. Alright? Dato mentioned desire kan. Desire, how badly you want something. You bayangkan the desire tu, macam yang bahan api lah, it's a fuel. Alright? You can imagine, okay, we are still very fossil fuel, very carbon, so let's talk about arang kayu. I have fossil fuel, I have kayu api or coal, charcoal, arang batu. Can you get the fire out of that? You cannot get the fire if you got the spark. You kan hanya boleh dapatkan api daripada bahan api itu kalau you ada bunga api, spark. Betul? How do you get a spark? Dream about it. Imagine it. Close your eyes and keep chanting fire, fire, fire. The spark will come. No, right? What do? Katakan tak ada pemetik api, tak ada mancis, what do you do? Yes, we all know. Go back to the Paleolithic time, take a piece of stone or 2 pieces of stone and start hitting them. Gesek-gesek, ketuk-ketuk dan harap dapatlah spark. Buat sampai tangan semua kulit dah habis tanggal, berdarah mungkin dapat beberapa spark. Dan kebetulan pak kena tak di bahan api itu boleh dah ternyala. So your bahan api is your desire. Your spark to start the fire tu is your drive. Your drive. Your self-motivation tu. Without your desire, without that drive, bahan api ibarat tak ada spark. Ataupun ada spark tak ada bahan api lah. Either way, it doesn't work. Once you have got your desire in and you got your spark in, maksudnya dah ada desire, dah ada you punya drive, together it comes out to the word that Dato mentioned just now, perseverance. Perseverance. I add on one more word for you, students, patience. Kita sangat perseverance 2 hari aja. Sebab apa? Kita tak ada patience. I'm going to work so hard this semester. Every day I do revision 3 hours. On top of the classes, no. I do 3 hours revision. First day, dapat 30 minit dah terpingsan, terkantai, tengok Netflix, binge watching, and so on and so forth. And update social media, sibuk sangat, and so on and so forth. Allah, 30 minit. Second day, dah hilang semangat. Apa tu hilang semangat? Itu spark tak ada dah, drive tak ada. Siapa buat? Second day, 15 minutes. By the end of the week, there was 0 minutes lah. Mana kita punya perseverance? It all started with, we persevered what? 2 days I buat. Tapi I ada patience tak ada. I tak ada sabar. I tak sabar nak tengok result. Hari ini I usaha, katakan sekarang PKE semua ada kita yang tak kawal kita expand horizontally kan. Oh dah expand, raya lagi expand lah, makan banyak sekali tempat rendang kan. So sekarang nak kecukan semula, nak ramping semula. Okay, I diet hari ini. Hari ini I diet, I makan celery aja. Minum air, makan celery, I run round the taman 5 rounds. Besok kaki dah sakit, besok tak run. Lusa pun tak run lah. In fact, the third day tapi beraya, makan banyak-banyak again. So, memang persevere, memang run the first day. Tapi the patience tak ada. Sebab hari ini buat, hari ini terus nak ramping. We don't have patience, sabar tu tak ada. So you see, my dear students, if you are Muslim, or even if you are not Muslim, you could look into the book of wisdom, look into the Quran. There are many times it is mentioned perseverance, patience, patience, perseverance, perseverance, patience, patience, perseverance. I think the correct Malay word is istiqamah kan? Istiqamah is perseverance and patience is sabar. So these two things, my dear students, we muhasabah diri lah. Let's review ourselves. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about myself yang sangat-sangat lemah ni. Review ourselves. Where are we? Where are we now? We are now in week 9 in our study, in the semester. We still have time to catch up if we are already lagging behind. Kan? Where is our drive? Where was our original desire? Why in the first place we get into university? Boleh dia duduk rumah tak ada buat apa-apa PKP tangguh pendaftaran je. Tapi dia teruskan pengajian. Tak ada tangguh pengajian, tak ada tangguh pendaftaran bagi pelajar baru. Tapi nak juga masuk universiti secara virtual. Tak jejak kaki pun kat pagar tu. Pagar di mana pun tak tahu. Apa rupa pagar pun tak tahu. You get what I mean? But yet you registered and you studied.
Betul. Kita punya student yang datang ni adalah batch yang COVID punya batch. Dia dah 2 semester belajar dekat online. Sekarang dia di semester 2. Saya dah ajar diorang ni dah 2 semester.
Tak pernah jejak kaki kat kampus. Kan? So, bertanyalah students, you come this far. The fact that you're still here, you didn't drop the subject, you didn't tangguh, and syukur you didn't have to, for all sorts of reasons, quit your study, which you know some of your friends unfortunately had to do that for all sorts of reasons. So keep it up lah, keep it up. Ingat apa yang Dato pesan tadi tu. Things are going to get a lot more challenging after this because the pandemic lockdown causes a lot of economic slowdown. When things get back together again, one of the first things that the government is going to do, all governments, not just our government, is to make the economy run again. And for the economy to run, the if you like, all the activities, including the construction industry, we have to be jump started again. You almost like jump start macam tu lah. So sebenarnya slow down. Apa Dato cakap tadi? Half of the development infrastructure punya budget has been curtailed, has been cut, yeah, because we need to go and send out to other things, medics and so on and so forth, and all the bantuan to the rakyat, which is necessary lah. So students, grow up lah, grow up. When we are in university, what we say that when we go to university, that is when we grow up. You are in your early 20s saja. It's time to grow up lah. Bukan apa, maintain your childishness. I mean, when childish means, sebagai budak-budak macam tu, so you are curious. curious. So when you're curious, you learn a lot more, all right? You absorb a lot more. But be matang, grow up. You got to bear the responsibility. You got to learn to be accountable. You got to learn to answer for your actions, answer for your studies, answer for your grades. We cannot be blaming people anymore. We cannot be putting the blame on the pandemic, blaming the university for not giving better internet, cannot be blaming all sorts of other things anymore. At the end of the day, it comes down to us. How strong is our desire? How firm is our drive? And then how to what level did we bring or did we train ourselves of our perseverance and our patience? Right, tu aja, masih.
Okay. Satu sesi yang amat memberikan motivasi lah kepada kita lah, kepada Datuk dan juga Dr. Chan. Okey, kita ada soalan ni, ada beberapa soalan daripada kita punya penonton. Okay, so maybe anyone can respond to that question.
Which one is that, Bob?
How important research collaboration to the industry? Sikit, kemudian Dr. Chan boleh bagi pendapat sikit.
Research, okay. I give a quick one about research. About orang tahu fikir research tu ada kat universiti kan. Sebenarnya research tu yang FTK punya sepatutnya banyak kat luar. Kalau tak luar pun bawa dari luar, bawa ke dalam. Alright. So how important is research collaboration to the industry? This question should be to Dato, but I'll just tell from the perspective of university lah. Okay. Now, students, very good question because you are going on eventually to your PSM. Right, FYP final year project, and even before you go up to your FYP project, as I said, every core discipline, every core subject that you have has a problem, project in that. And all these projects, you will notice that your lecturer will start putting in this industrial flavor into it, whether it's a real case study, it's a real problem or things like that, or getting industrial panel, getting industrial advisor to assist you in your project. Why? To give you the first taste of the industry right from the beginning. Apa Datuk cakap tadi? Your training starts now. Your training doesn't start when you finish your study in 4 years time. That's too late now. You're gonna start now. When we say start now, acquire the knowledge, acquire the skills, go beyond your textbook. I ulang, go beyond your textbook. Your lecturers kat situ berbaris kat situ tunggu you tanya. Then we ask ourselves, how often we PM our lecturer and tanya soalan? Tanya kat kelas group segan kan? How often? Cuba scroll sendiri, buka WhatsApp scroll. Tak ada satu pun yang teks kat Dr. Chan. Semua ialah teks kat kawan A, kawan B, kawan C dan kawan D yang dekat duduk kat Marik. Sampai Marik boleh sampai. Tapi Dr. Chan yang kat Pak Raja je tak ada nak teks tu. Tapi bila come to menjawab soalan test semua macam nampak tak faham. Contohlah. Itu bukan cakap you, itu cakap pasal I. Okay? So really got to self-review a bit code. Yeah. So talk about this research collaboration kan. That is where you see the faculty, the university is always trying very hard to rope in the industry. That macam Dato Zul is here with us for many years and how much we have learned from him. Dato Zul's contribution to our faculty, to our program, especially kan, is memang, I think the word is really immeasurable and unmentionable. You know, every time I have the opportunity to listen to Dato, there's always something new that I learn, and I really hope every time I hear that, every time I felt that, I really wish the student pick it up. Dan bukan tertidur ke apa. I really wish you just get 10% of what he said is already good enough for the rest of the semester dah. Then you tunggu the next semester Dato datang again lah, macam I untuk rejuvenate, nak recharge macam tu. So go back to the research. When you are conducting your FYP besok hari, cubalah my dear student, cuba pergi carikan problem yang memang datang dari industri. Maksudnya you sendiri yang pergi tengok kan, sendiri pergi tanya industri. Kan saya tengok, bukan tengok aja, pergi tanya. Depan rumah you, jalan tu asyik pecah. Dan sebelah kampung you tu, parit tu sebenarnya sesumbat. Pergi cari, tanya ketua kampung, tanya orang duduk situ, kenapa asyik sumbat? Dan pergi cari, JPS pergi tanya, tuan, kenapa asyik sumbat ke apa benda? Find out. The semester before your PSM 1 dah pergi cari dah, dah pergi explore dah. Kemudian come to PSM 1, what do? You pergi cari supervisor yang berkaitan, pergi tanya, doktor, I ada jumpa projek ni, di kampung I gini gitu, I ada this basic information, can you be my supervisor? You punya supervisor akan sangat gembira terima. Sebab the problem comes from you. You started carving about it before you even do your PSM. What does that tell about you? What does that tell about you? Ya, you punya bahan api ada, you punya desire ada, you punya spark ada, you punya drive ada, and you sangat-sangat persevere. Persistent ni, tak lepaskan ni. Patient tak patient, kita akan tengok sampai ke hujung PSM 2 nantilah. Alright, I leave it. I pass it on to Dato to talk about this, about the research, the industry. Dato.
Okay.
I think what
Okay, thank you,
Doctor has
Dr. Chan.
elaborated is
So,
good enough. Maybe we
let-
go to the question, maybe. Otherwise, there's a lot of question there, I believe. Okay, Luthfi,
Okay.
I said Doctor dah elaborate well just now. I
Okay,
think
right.
I'm going to give the same answer also.
Dato', soalan-soalan yang ada dekat chat room ni ada yang berkaitan dengan technical dan juga berkaitan dengan motivational lah. Okay, so mungkin saya boleh highlightkan satu soalan yang mungkin Dato' boleh bagi pandangan dan motivasi kepada pelajar ni lah. Okay, so daripada Anonymous, dia tak letak nama. Okay, hello Dato', I had a financial issue in my study as I had to support.
I dah baca.
As
Okay.
my father are retired and my mother is sick. Okay. So for Dato' information, I am in semester 2. Okay, so kalau boleh Dato' respon kepada soalan tu.
Okay. Thank you, the student. At least you dare enough to voice out your punya situation. I know that it's not easy. It's easier said than done. Easier said than done. But I just want to relate to you my problems. You know, when I was as a student like you before, there's one experience that I still remember, and I always keep on telling my children as well as to the other university student. I sometimes do not have enough money even to buy food. There's a final exam of mine at the university at the year 5. I still remember that I only have one packet of Maggi mee, which is divided into 2, one for lunch, half for lunch and half for dinner. You know, it's a very, very difficult at a particular time. And nobody knew about it except for myself. And during Hari Raya, I don't go back to my kampung because I don't have money. I stay alone in my rented room. But it is not about the difficulties that that I'm facing at a particular time. It is about my intention. I must graduate. I must live up the standard of my family. Then it can only be done if I graduated. So what it takes, what the cost supposed to be for me to endure at these difficulties is no longer an issue to me. If people have nasi biryani, I only half of Maggi mee to eat, be it. But I will graduate with the one, together with the one who have nasi biryani now. The one thing, I put it in my head and my heart, I'll be better off than them. So why you need this student, you don't have to worry and compare yourself with the others. Be it you only have half a rice to eat compared to the others, but you must graduate. Once you graduate, you elevate the family life better, but you must work from now to show your capabilities. Like me, how could be a student being employed to work outside at night if I cannot show to them I'm as good as their staff who already graduated? Being given a task where I have assignment to do, at the same time a task that a public sector cannot wait for me to get the result done. I have to complete the job ahead of time. At the same time, I have a task like Professor mentioned just now about multiple tasks that I have to submit to the university. But that's not important. The most important thing is that I must graduate, and if I were given the chance to graduate, where I have built myself from the student time, that I must be different from the others, and that must be transformed during my career time, then I believe with that, I'll be able to elevate myself to a certain extent. So now you don't have to compare with others. You must use the problem that you are facing to fire you up. If people go out and have a teh tarik, you stay at home, study. If people go out, buy new shoe, you use your old shoe to drive you. This old shoe is the one who keep me going to university, keep me going like my time last time. Go to work, go to having the knowledge, working part-time and whatnot. So you must do this. You don't care about what they eat. You don't care where they go. You only care about yourself because you want to be having the license and ticket to the world, which is graduating with the flying colors. So, but if you keep on crying and then talking about the situation that you are in, it doesn't solve. Fate has been given to you. Fate has fallen on your head in a situation, but you must remember, there's a lot of other people who are having the same difficulties or worse than you, not even have the chance to go to university. You are already at the Menara Gading. You are a step away that you will become an engineer. You are not become technician. You are not become a worker. You are not become laborer. You are going to be a professional engineer. It's very much up to you after this what you want to be. You can scale the mountain if you want to be. So what you need to do now, forget about others. Take care of your family, the level best that you could do by studying hard and produce results so that you can bring betterment to your family. These are the things that drive you. You must have this desire. Difficulties, miskin, kemiskinan, kesusahan, kepayahan adalah basahan hidup saya. I've been in these difficulties long ago. I barefooted went to school, barefooted. I only eat tapioca plus rice. But that does not make my brain lower. That does not make my brain cannot work harder. That does not make my desire to work harder less than the other because I have less vitamin. But the desire that I have to be what I want to be and achieve it in most difficult ways is the vitamin that put me through the process. So my advice, be grateful that you are in university now. Be grateful you are a step away become engineer. Be grateful you are given a chance to be what you want to be. So while I understand your predicament. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, terima kasih Dato. So kepada pelajar yang terlibat tu, sebenarnya kita di universiti ni ada unit kebajikan di HEPA. So sekiranya kalau ada apa-apa masalah bolehlah berhubung dengan penasihat akademik awak ataupun mana-mana pensyarah yang awak rasa selesa. So insyaAllah kita akan cuba bantulah. Okey, sebenarnya dekat UTHM ada dari segi bantuan zakat, baitul mal dan lain-lain lah, dan tabung kebajikan yang lain-lain. So saya rasa jangan segan lah. Okey, so boleh berhubung terus dengan penasihat akademik ataupun mana-mana pensyarah yang awak rasa selesa. InsyaAllah kita akan bantu setakat mana yang kita mampu. Okey, terima kasih Datuk atas nasihat tadi. So apa-apa pun pelajaran mesti diteruskan. So sebab itulah hanyalah satu-satunya tiket untuk kita maju ke hadapan lah. Okey, untuk merubah masa depan keluarga. Okey, so kita ada lebih kurang 10 minit lagi. We had about 10 minutes to 10:30. Okay, maybe kita boleh bacakan satu ataupun dua soalan lagi. Okey, daripada Nurin Nadia. Okey, so ni macam dia punya keluhan jugalah. Okey, dia punya soalan adalah every engineering university always want to produce quality engineer, but for now every student need to learn virtually instead of face to face. Students do not understand much when learning virtually. Will quality engineer be produced with this kind of learning? Okay, mungkin Dr. Chan boleh respon.
Right, thank you, Encik Luthfi.
Ini adalah
Dear
challenge
students,
kepada kita.
it's a
Okay, teruskan Dr. Chan.
Alright, it's a lot easier to moan. Macam Dato' kata tadi, it's a lot easier for us to wallow in our sorrow. It's senang untuk kita tenggelamkan diri kita dalam kita kesedihan, kesusahan, dan lebih senang untuk kita mengeluarkan kata-kata tentang kesusahan tu. Dengan erti kata lain, lebih senang keluarkan perkataan negatif. Cuba, saya malas, saya tak pandai, saya tak lawa, saya kontok, saya gemuk. A lot easier kan? If I ask you praise yourself, is it easy to say, saya clever, saya handsome, saya lawa, saya walaupun 140 tapi tinggi je, okey je. It's difficult kan? Why? Kononnya kita rendah diri, kononnya humble. And then sebenarnya kita tengah calm ourselves down. Kita sendiri ketuk sendiri, ambil tukuk ketuk kepala tu, ketuk kata macam paku, ketuk I rendah, tak pandai. So dari kecil kita cakap dengan diri kita, saya tak pandai, saya tak lawa, saya tak pandai matematik, saya tak erti, I don't know, English dan sebagainya. And it becomes a habit. Every day we tell that to ourselves, bukan buka mulut, cakap dengan hati tu. Saya tak pandai lah. Suruh buat matematik 2 je. Saya tak pandai lah, mati lah, tak apalah, tiru kawan punya. Exam cukup makan je, 41 makan pun dah lulus kan. So that is what we tell ourselves. You see what happens when we keep telling ourselves all these quote-unquote negative things. Kan? Dia kata, yelah senang you cakap, you dah ada doctorate. Senang lah cakap. Senang lah cakap. Macam Dato' cakap tadi kan, mudah kita cakap, easier said than done. Yeah, exactly. Easier said than done. But we came through it. Bukan nak masuk bakul, nak angkat sendiri ke apa-apa. It's just telling you that we all came through the hard way. Whether you are have or not have or don't have, you still have to go through the hard way to get knowledge. Nobody, no one can put a chip install in your head at the moment. Tak ada technology, you put a chip there and then you become civil engineering technologist. No. Pop a chip there, I become a lawyer. No. You still have to learn through the hard way. You tak boleh ambil itu buku law, bakar, minum habis, or terror besok pandai law. No. Everybody, it doesn't matter you are tall or thin, rich or poor, you still have to study. You still have to go through the hard way. You still have to have the desire, the drive, the perseverance and patience to gain the knowledge. Because that is how knowledge is being acquired. Kan? Now, back to the story tadi, student tanya, but I congratulate you. You are courageous enough to put up the question which many students wanted to ask. You say we are hands-on, lagi-lagi civil engineering technology. Macam mana ni sekarang? No hands-on face-to-face. Let us dissect the question properly. Kita compartmentalize. Kita in civil engineering technology, technical people, we speak with precision. Kita tak cakap kabur-kabur. Cakap perkataan guna ayat-ayat yang sangat jelas. What exactly is the problem? There are two parts of the problem now, kan? Is it the face-to-face, non-face-to-face learning that you don't like, that you cannot entertain or you cannot tolerate? Or is it the missing of your practical part, the lab part, that you are feeling a bit worried about? Which one? Kan? Kalau kata non-face-to-face, we are worried about, then it's high time we start teaching ourselves what is education, the future education is going to be like. Even before the pandemic, my dear students, there is already a big shift going through in the education industry where things are going into two ways, two things. Satu, going digital. People no longer go to classroom. Classrooms are all virtual now. Number two, people are talking about learning multidisciplinary stuff. Civil ada belajar sikit electrical, belajar jahitan, even belajar tentang memancing ikan, agriculture, aquaculture, and yet they graduate as civil engineering technology. People are talking about such things, micro-credentials, yeah? That is even before the pandemic set in. Already the education, the trend is going towards that. Digital and multidiscipline, just major or minor. Boleh, yeah? So that is about online learning. Then we move on to the second part, which I think is all right, and it is reasonable if you are concerned about. Kata kita civil engineering technology, practical tu tak ada. Contohnya soal mechanics lab, hydraulics lab, tak pernah pun sentuh itu hydraulic bench, tengok pun tak pernah, color pun tak tahu. Macam mana nak kata I dah lulus hydraulics A+. Exactly. If you already received the transcript, getting A+ for hydraulics, maybe you should pulangkan to your lecturer and say, Doktor, I pulangkan separuh markah ni sebab markah separuh yang tu lab ni sebenarnya I tak buat, aku tak tahu hydraulic bench, hydraulic jump tu apa, tak pernah tengok pun vortex tu apa, aku tak tahu. I pulangkan markah hydraulic bahagian lab tu dulu, nanti baru buat semua. That's exactly what the faculty and the university has planned for you. Do you know that we have planned this right from the beginning when the first round of PKP set in? Already we have a list of the subjects, labs and practical sessions that we are going to recall the student before we let you graduate. And that is something that you probably don't know, kan? Sebab we didn't know, nobody knows when the pandemic was going to end, when the MCO was going to end. We were already planning it. You get all the subjects done, whether it's virtual demonstration lab ke ataupun video lab ke apa-apa lab lah. Sebenarnya tak pernah pun sentuh, tak pernah masuk lab tu pun. Tapi before you graduate, memang kita akan ambil you, letak dalam satu summer camp, you will go through all the lab sessions. You will be touching those equipments and all. So our job now is, I rasa untuk this aspect lah, adalah memang doa lah, this lockdown will come to an end somehow. Or this pandemic come to a control somehow. Bukan end, it won't end so quickly punya. You already know how this viral pattern works. You don't believe me? Look back at the last big contagious disease that has gone through the ravaged through the earth. It will take years for this to slowly not die down but die away lah, macam tu. Okay, so that is something that has really been planned for you. When or how we're going to do it, it really depends on the circumstances of this pandemic unfolding. Students. So for this thing, I think the only thing that we can really do is to pray. That the opportunity will come. And so tak mau kita mourn for something that we don't have. Let's be grateful. Bersyukur dengan apa yang kita ada. Masih ada kelas online tau. Masih ada kelas online. Masih boleh jumpa lecturer online. Masih boleh ada assignment boleh hantar online. Meskipun terkial-kial. Ambil scan, sengit-sengit, kadang kena tegur, kadang line putus-putus, hujan, putus dan sebagainya. But still you are learning. Ask yourself for the past year, March until sekarang May. Dah setahun lebih tau. Setahun lebih ni, andai kata you were not engaged in these non-face-to-face classes, what would you have been doing? Would you have grown so much? Would you have learned so much? Would you have known what is hydraulics? Would you have known what is sound mechanics? Would you have known what is structures? Takkan. So kita bersyukurlah dengan apa yang kita ada. Kita suka tengok yang kita tak ada tau. Kita suka, itu manusia. Kita suka tengok yang kita tak ada, yang kita membesarkan yang kita tak ada tu dan bersedih. Kita tak nampak yang kita ada tu. Dan kita bersyukur dengan apa yang kita ada. So we all learn. I'm not tegoring myself. Bersyukurlah kita bila kita tak ada. Sebab senang kita bersyukur bila kita ada. Boleh ya? Terima kasih.
Okay. Thank you Dr. Chan. Terima kasih. Saya rasa kita pun dah sampai ke penghujungnya. Okay. So kalau boleh saya nak minta mungkin dalam seorang 30 second kot. Mungkin Datuk boleh bagi satu kesimpulan untuk sesi forum kita ni dan mungkin 30 saat lagi untuk Dr. Chan. Short and brief conclusion. Okay. So silakan Datuk.
Okay, terima kasih ya pihak universiti dan pihak jabatan dan fakulti. Bagus moderator. Bagus, Profesor Chan, very insight. You have a very good lecturer, learn a lot from her. I congratulate university, congratulate students who are passionate enough to be with us today, and hope you learn a little bit here and there. And I really hope that one of you or two or three of you will become somebody notable in the country in the near future. So that my hope, the outcome of this lecture, of this what I call this lecture lah, this lecture or dialogue. Thank you very much.
Okay, so terima kasih Datuk. So mungkin Dr. Chan ada sepatah dua kata sebagai kesimpulan.
I need 10 seconds saja. That is, dear students, it is difficult. Yeah, it is very difficult now learning online. Whatever adversities you have, sometimes you have people sick at home, you have financial problems, all sorts. As Dato said, don't focus on a problem. I would like to end my part with a quote from the Quran. I just couldn't put my finger on the surah, but it's in Al-Inshirah. So basically, it is said like this. Yeah, as I said, it's a book of wisdom. It doesn't matter if you're not Muslim, you can still find a lot of solace and wisdom in there. It is said that verily with every difficulty there is relief. And then he repeats, verily with every difficulty there is relief. Untuk setiap kesusahan, untuk setiap ujian tu ada penawarnya, ada kemudahannya. Dan sebenarnya, in Arabic terms, the ease that is mentioned here is in plural form. Banyak-banyak kemudahan, banyak-banyak yang dilonggarkan, banyak-banyak yang akan dibantu. So with every musibah, every ujian tu. So my dear students kan, in dunia as manusia kan, we cannot help it. We are tested all the time. Sometimes the ujian is besar, sometimes the ujian is kecil. Besar kecil is very subjective depending on people. But the main thing is what? Macam Datuk kata, you kena persevere. You kena menang. You kena menang ujian tu. Fokus pada apa yang you tengah buat. You pelajar sekarang, you mahasiswa-mahasiswi. You tanggungjawab utama ialah buat apa? Untuk capai, habiskan jihad ni, dapatkan sebelum ijazah tu. Yang lain-lain tu bukan tak penting. You kena tak hilang fokus. Itu aja. Tak hilang fokus. Itu aja. Terima kasih.
Okay, so terima kasih kepada kedua-dua panelis kita. Okay, so suka saya ingatkan para hadirin untuk mengisi borang kehadiran di dalam chat box. So e-cert akan diberikan kepada semua peserta pada pagi ini. Okay, so untuk pelajar-pelajar section saya, okay, section 1 dan section 2, Construction Engineering Technology and Management. Okay, your attendance, boleh isikan attendance macam biasa dekat Google Classroom. Okay, so we are fully utilize the technologies now. Okay, so then moga apa yang kita dapat pada hari ini dapat memberikan manfaat kepada kita semua. Okay, so daripada segi pengetahuan berkaitan dengan teknologi, cabaran dan masa depan, kemudian daripada segi motivasi kepada pelajar. Okay, so jangan berputus asa. So, walaupun awak dah 2 semester belajar di rumah, okay, so kita macam yang Dr. Chan cakap tadi, memang sini awak tu kita akan buat satu bootcamp, satu masa mungkin dalam setengah semester ataupun short sem, mungkin kita akan panggil untuk you siapkan you punya amali lah. Okay, so untuk itu saya sudahi dengan wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya serahkan kepada Cik pengurusi majlis, Cik Asyikin. Okay, silakan.
Terima kasih diucapkan kepada barisan panelis di atas perkongsian yang diberikan sebentar tadi. Sebelum itu, diminta semua panel dan para hadirin untuk membuka kamera bagi sesi bergambar.
Okay, boleh onkan kamera sekejap Kita ada 104 participants, so it's going to take a while. So taking picture in 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm taking page 2 right now. In 1, 2, 3. Page 3. Page 4. And page 5. All right, thank you everyone.
Thank you. Masih
Yeah,
Dato.
so thank you. Terima kasih.
Luthfi, everyone, students, take good care.
Dengan ini tamatlah sudah slot 2 untuk pagi ini. Suka untuk dimaklumkan, program ini akan bersambung pada petang ini untuk slot 3, The Economics in Plant and Machinery, Case Study for the Construction Industry. Hadirin dijemput untuk bersama-sama dalam slot 3 nanti. Dengan ini saya akhiri majlis ini dengan serangkap pantun. Kalau ada sumur di ladang, boleh saya menumpang mandi. Kalau ada umur yang panjang, boleh kita berjumpa lagi. Sekian, wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.